Stop wasting your hard-earned money on live blackworms. They're not worth it. Wait. Before you start typing some hate in the comments, let me explain. Live blackworms are one of the best live foods that you can feed your fish, especially for species such as corydoras, bristlenose, plecos. If you want to get those guys breeding, then live blackworms are one of the best, if not the best food. But that said, they are expensive and they're consumable. They're burning money. Your fish may enjoy them, but your wallet definitely doesn't. So what I'm going to teach you in this video is how to cultivate your own live blackworms at home, DIY. Anyone can do this in their own fish room so that you can stop spending all your money on live blackworms and put your well-earned money where it needs to go into areas such as filtration, your tank, your media, substrate, plants, all that fun stuff. Stop wasting your money on live blackworms. And yeah, let's jump straight into it and I'll show you how to do it. But wait, if this video helps you, make sure you splash the subscribe button to N8 Aquatics to become a fish freak. We upload weekly, all kinds of fish keeping content. So with that said, let's jump straight into how to cultivate live blackworms. The first step to buying your live blackworms so that you can start cultivating them at home in your own fish room is to find a reputable source for live blackworms. Let me repeat, for live blackworms. You don't want freeze dried, you don't want fresh frozen, you don't want frozen, you want live. They have to be alive when they get to you. That's the first step. Make sure you find a good source, it's a live product, and preferably with overnight shipping, because if these guys get delayed and they get hot, they will die. So that actually leads us into another important factor. Make sure that your supplier uses cold packs or some sort of cold insulation to ensure that the blackworms stay very cold during transit, because these guys will die if they get anywhere above 25 degrees. That's when they start dying off or tapering off, and then the excess ammonia in the packaging will cause the whole colony to crash. So that's actually my most important tip. Buy from somewhere reputable. It's going to save you hundreds of dollars. These are not cheap, so if you buy them and they're dead when they get to you, you've wasted all that money. So awesome. You found where you want to get your blackworms from, you've placed your order and they've arrived. They're probably going to arrive in some sort of container or some kind of bag. And the first step is to take them out of that container, of that bag, or leave them in it and pour them into something, into a pre-prepared bowl, container, something like that. And you want to just give them a light rinse with your hands. Do not go crazy, because if you go crazy with your hands and start rummaging around like nut, you're going to break up all the little worms. And while they can clone themselves, and that's the main way we're going to cultivate our worms, if you break them up too quickly, too soon, and especially when they're weak from shipping, they're going to die and you're going to crash your entire colony. So take the worms, give them a nice gentle rummage with your fingers to break up all the detritus debris, and then drain out all the gross excess shipping water and gunk that we just rinsed off the worms. So we just rinsed off our worms and got rid of all the disgusting shipping water. What do we do now? Well, we want to put them into the container that we want to actually breed or propagate these worms in. What I find works best is a large, or rather long and sort of wide tray. You don't want the tray to be too deep. What I see a lot of other YouTubers do is they'll put them in small aquariums, maybe 10, 20, 60 liter aquariums, and they'll fill the water up to around, halfway, less than halfway. And on the bottom of the tanks, they'll put gravel or sponge, and then they'll put their worms in there. This does work, but because you've got a lot of water in there, it's very hard to keep the oxygen high, and the oxygen is what we really want for these worms. These worms need lots of oxygen, the main thing that they need. And so what we want is to keep them in around 5 centimeters of water. That's right, only 5 centimeters of water. So we want a long tray, wide tray, 5 centimeter depth. What we then want to do is to get a air bubbler, so an air stone or a bubble bar or something like that, and put it in the middle of our trays. That's right, smack bang in the middle of our trays, and hook them up to an aerator. We don't want it going crazy, exploding the water everywhere. We want it enough to create a very large surface of bubbles across the entirety of the tray. So the entire tray has bubbles on it. If you can't get this effect, that's fine. Get as many bubbles in a circle or as much surface agitation as you can. That's key. The more surface agitation you get, the more oxygen you're going to give the worms. The more oxygen you give the worms, the less chance you have of crashing your entire colony. But let's take this a step further. Let's say you get 250 grams of worms and you're like, yes, let's start an awesome culture. I'm gonna make lots of money, or I'm gonna have food forever. Don't make the mistake of putting all of those worms that you just spent all that effort and money on getting them shipped to you. Don't put them all in one tray. Get 2 trays and split them apart. That way, if one dies for whatever reason, maybe you just didn't do it right, you're not fully out of the hole yet and you didn't just waste all of those worms. Split them into 2 trays, and then if one starts looking better than the other, you can figure figure out why. This is actually a really good tip because a lot of people, they'll buy their blackworms, they'll fail, and then they'll just give up. Unfortunately, sometimes you just need experience, and doing it this way gives you 2 trays to work on and make sure you're doing everything correctly. You don't need to put a heater in these trays unless you live like somewhere crazy, like, I don't know, Antarctica or somewhere crazy in Canada where it gets to -5, -10. That said, growth for these blackworms will slow down at around 10 degrees. The best temperature is around 18 to 20 degrees. This is where they grow the best and you can get the most cultivation from your worms. So let's recap. We've rinsed the worms, we've tipped out the water, we've put them in our small, long tray with 5 centimeters of water. We've put an air stone in it as well. So now we've got our tray, air stone in the middle, and our blackworms. They're enjoying all of the oxygen, they're going crazy. So how do we actually breed them? How do we propagate them? Well, blackworms in captivity most of the time, or at least in hobbyist captivity, will not breed, so to speak. What we can do is we can break up the large worms with our fingers or an instrument if you choose to use something else. Maybe you're a bit squeamish when it comes to touching the worms. What we want to do is break them up into smaller segments and then feed them and keep them healthy. They'll actually grow into entire new worms. The more we break them up, the more they grow. The more they grow, the more we can break them up. Do this over 1-2 months, and you're going to end up with a much larger volume of worms than what you initially started with. That said, blackworms are a little bit slow. They're not as quick as Daphnia or Artemia or something like that. They are a little bit slow, but they're definitely worth the investment. If you get around 250 grams to start with, in a few months you may have around 700 grams of blackworms. You'll never need to buy them again, and as you need to, you can just make more and more trays. So how do we grow them and keep them healthy? Well, the best way is to ensure you're water changing them by around 10 to 15% every day. That's right, every day. These guys are crazy, especially with the setup. We've given them the max air we can give them, but at the expense of giving them any kind of biomedia. So what we need to do is ensure that the nitrates, ammonia, and nitrites never get too high by always water changing out the gross gunky water. On top of that, every 2nd day or 3rd day, depending on your needs, take the trays and give the worms a rack around, not enough to break them up. We're not trying to split them, we're just trying to clean them out, similar to what we did when we rinsed them. By doing this, we can get all the gunk out and tip the gunk out and give them a big water change. Around 50% of the water, maybe even 60% of the water. Do this every 2 to 3 days. Blackworms are notorious for crashing seemingly overnight. It doesn't take long for a cascading effect. A little bit of ammonia or nitrate accumulates, and then like an avalanche, all the rest of the worms die, and then they accumulate the nitrates or ammonia even more. That's what happens, so trust me, make sure you save your investment, do your water changes, that's very important. When it comes to feeding, we want to feed these guys very sparingly, and we kind of want to feed them like they're filter feeders. All I do is small tiny little bit of spirulina powder on my finger, and I'll just either drip it around the water or swish my finger in the water a little bit. We're not trying to make the water look like Shrek's swamp, we're just trying to make it look a little bit tinged or provide enough food for our worms. The more food you add, the faster the water is going to spoil and the more water changes you're going to do. So be very smart with the amount of food you add. So if you've followed all the steps in this video, you put them in a small shallow tray, you gave them the correct oxygen, you made sure to water change them, and you feed them sparingly with spirulina powder, I can almost guarantee you that you can keep these blackworms alive. That said, you also have to make sure you keep them cold. Don't let them get too hot, otherwise again, they will die. So again, 18 to 20 degrees seems to be my best sweet spot. This is how I propagate my blackworms here at N8 Aquatics and feed them to all my fish, especially my Bosmanis here, and it makes them go crazy and provide lots of eggs for breeding because I know you guys love the Bosmani fish, which will be available soon on n8aquatics.com. Yeah, that's pretty much it for cultivating your own blackworms. If this video helped you, make sure you like the video. Let me know in the comments, do you keep blackworms? Do you feed them to your fish? Let me know, and as always, splash the subscribe button to N8 Aquatics to become a fish freak because it really helps the channel. We're aiming for 200 subs. As of this video, we're only 4 away, guys. 4 subs, so please splash the subscribe button. But for now, that's gonna be it.